why I'm laughing is every time I always look at like my shot, it's always like me and my giant head, and the lighting is always so terrible. And I'm sitting here like my Flyers cup, and I got my Lou Valenti shirt on, and then all of a sudden you pop on the screen, and it's like beauty and light and air, and it's just like it's such an amazing contrast when it pops up. So I'm like sitting there going like this, like somehow this is going to help the thing come on faster. So that's all. It's like, it definitely is like a Beauty and the Beast moment, but there's so much more to Devon Peterson than physical attractiveness. So let's get to the information here. Devon,
right?
What is it that you want to talk about today? Because I certainly have a list of items I'd like to go over.
Oh, well, I mean, I feel like I've picked the topic the last few times, so why don't
you have? Because if it's my choice to pick the topic, all you do is talk about dogs and movie lines.
Okay.
And foods that I will refuse to eat. So if there's anything on your mind before we get to the nonsense, please share it.
Okay. So I had two exercise topics. One is a more broad topic. It's like a bigger idea, and then the other one's very specific.
I thought you were using like a 1920s like phrase for women. I'm sorry.
No.
Get these broads out of here. Say, I'm a mobster. See, this is what would happen. I would be doing Jimmy Cagney impersonations for an hour straight. So, okay, so broad
should we talk about the broad topic or the specific topic first?
Let's talk. It doesn't matter. Nonsense shall ensue. So please go ahead.
Well, I know this is something we've touched on in probably half of our videos already, but the misconception that people have and that I have had, that a productive workout means that you're filling the hour with just constantly doing something in your time at the gym, thinking that if you keep moving, if you keep your heart rate up, if you're just constantly doing something different, that is going to somehow lead to a better outcome as far as body composition, strength. So that's that misconception that just filling time is somehow more productive.
So what are some of your thoughts on that? Because I certainly have my own.
Well, I think zooming out and looking at the bigger picture of consistency, sometimes it's people wanting to make up for lost time, like they're just not consistent in general. So consistency is number one. And then also like looking at like understanding that what needs to happen in the gym is building muscle. If your goal is fat loss, if you're like, I don't care about muscle, I just want to lose weight, if you want to do that productively, you still want to spend your time in the gym building muscle. And if you want to get toned, you want to spend your time in the gym building muscle. If you want to lose your trouble areas, you still want to spend your time in the gym building muscle. So the understanding that building muscle is the main thing that you want to be doing. And then if that's the case, it's going to come down to how many sets per week per muscle group are you doing, and making those sets as effective as possible. And that's going to mean taking breaks in between those sets. So it's kind of like understanding the bigger picture of the sets per week, or the effective sets per week. And then that's what really needs to be accomplished. Like that's the goal. It's not just about filling time. It's that certain number of effective sets per week. So I would say that's really the main point.
Okay. I'm going to go off on a little rant here. So I think you hit the number one thing is you got to ask yourself a question. What are you trying to accomplish in the gym? What's your end goal? Because if your end goal is just to be active and move and burn calories, and you want a trainer to show you a bunch of cool, fun exercises to do that and to motivate you and be there and have a good time, then if that's your goal, then that's what running around and jumping and doing stuff and not taking long enough rest breaks and insisting on jumping rope between every sets of lat pull downs, between every set of chest press, and doing jumping jacks between sets of squats, and doing burpees between sets of bicep curls. If that's what you want to accomplish, if your goal is to get tired, get sore, and get out of breath, then that workout will help you what you're trying to accomplish, right? That's the Chris Barlick's 316, right? You want to get tired, you want to soar, you want to get sore, you want to sweat. If that is your goal, then that workout will accomplish that. None of us can argue with that. But if your goal is to build muscle or maintain muscle while in a calorie deficit, if your goal is to get stronger, all the things you are saying that people want to do, right, keep their heart rate constantly elevated during the workout, is going to run contrary to that. Now, where we get ourselves in trouble is for the first 6 months to a year, anything gets most people stronger because they're starting from such a low level of strength. So even those type of gym class type workouts will put some muscle on people, will get people stronger to a degree. The problem is once you get past those initial beginner gains in which 60% of your 1 rep max, which isn't a very heavy weight, and 90% of your 1 rep max, which is a very heavy weight, have the same exact effect on muscle building and strength, you're kind of left with a problem here. Kind of around the same time most people burn out and quit on their exercise program because those workouts are so inferior at doing that, right? To your point, what are you trying to accomplish? Because if you're trying to get stronger and trying to build muscle, once you get past that initial 3 to 6 months or maybe even a year where anything works, if your lifespan is 3 to 6 months to a year, then you're good. But if you've got to continue this on for the rest of your life, you're going to have a real problem once you get through that initial window. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
So that's my first issue with it. My second issue with it is exercise. Let me say this very clear, because this goes out to the Orange Theory people. This goes out to every trainer, every boot camp trainer out there. Exercise is terrible at burning calories. If that was not true, our great ancestors would have starved to death a long time ago because 7-Eleven, Wawa, and ShopRite, even world-class ShopRite, didn't exist back in the day. Your body had to be better at conserving calories and it wasn't burning them, or you would die, right? Unless you're Michael Phelps and you are a world-class athlete, who, by the way, is also like 23 years old at the time, you simply cannot out-exercise a bad diet. It is simply too easy to take in food and too hard to burn off calories to get yourself in a calorie deficit through working out alone. Right. And I know, what about the afterburn effect? First off, the afterburn effect is complete nonsense. Let me be very clear about this. The most calories you burn related to working out occurs during the workout itself, not some magical window that occurs the next 6 to 24 hours afterwards, where apparently your body is becoming a fat burning machine. Right. If that was true, think about this logically. If most of the calories you burned came after a workout, how the hell are you and I still sitting here right now? Because after cavemen and cavewomen went out and hunted down the food, they technically would have kept burning calories for days afterwards with their level of intense exercise, right? So it just makes no sense from a metabolic standpoint. Now I'm invoking Fred Flintstone for some reason. It makes no sense from a metabolic standpoint that you would possibly be able to out-exercise a bad diet. And for most of the people who are watching our podcast, or most of the people we train, they are not world-class athletes. They cannot burn the amount of calories per minute of exercise to justify using exercise as a sole method of weight loss, which is exactly what those type of cardio workouts are trying to do. They assume because you're not doing a set of like an exercise, taking a minute to a minute and a half, doing another set, minute and a half, doing another set, and getting stronger and overloading the tissue, that somehow you're burning this a massive amount of calories. Whereas if whether you run around like a chicken with your head cut off, or you do station sets of exercise, either way, you're burning an insignificant amount of calories with the level of intensity that most people are capable of generating. So that's my other issue is, what's the purpose of being there when you can understand that exercise is a really, really bad way to burn calories? A lot of this, and I'm swearing this to you, Devon, it's neuroticism. I am more neurotic than 97% of people, so I can smell my own kind out there. This is a neurotic need to try to replace a bad diet, a bad night, a bad evening with some form of hyper exercise. If I just hyper exercise, I'll burn enough calories and it'll justify or take care of everything that I'm eating. It doesn't work that way. So I think that's a great deal. It's to justify people's neurotic need to try to believe that somehow they can out exercise the foods they eat. And it just doesn't work that way. And I think the hard part is you can only know what you know. And people have been spoon fed over and over and over again. And I'm gonna bring the name up, and you know it drives me nuts. The goddamn Biggest Loser. Also, you know what the Biggest Loser was? The people who made that show. Because all they did was spoon feed down people's brains. It wasn't spoon. They were using a goddamn oar and they were shoving food down people's throats. That Jillian and that other Jack, what's his name? Bob, would scream at you and yell at you and have you do battle ropes and slams and run on the treadmill as hard as you could for 30 seconds, right? That was what made you lose weight. When every story you hear about that damn show comes out. They were doing 8 to 10 hours of low intensity cardio a day. They run insane calorie deficits. And the only time Bob and Jillian came out was one, to collect their $1 million paychecks. But number two, they came out so they could shoot a cool shot where they were torturing these people. And then they'd go sit back in their chairs while they'd go do their 8 to 10 hours of cardio and go on their insane calorie deficits. And that's what made those people lose weight. But what we got sold was you're going to boot camp your way to weight loss. You're going to cry, scream, oh, I can't go on the treadmill anymore. Yeah, that's going to last very long. We're not locked in a compound on a TV show. So part of it is you can't even get mad at anybody because our damn industry has been telling people this over and over again. This is how you lose weight.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's now, I'm like that song. It's like the Joker's to the left of me. What was that? I can't remember. I'm so upset. I can't remember the Reservoir Dogs. It's clowns to the left of me, Joker's to the right. And here I am stuck in the middle with you, right? Here we are trying to tell people, look, use strength to get stronger. Use cardio to burn additional calories and improve the health of your heart. And use diet as your primary form of calorie deficit. Right? For a small person, you can use cardio to help assist so you can eat more calories per day. But it is not going to be a viable source of weight loss for most people. But what happens is your initial statement, it's all about that getting fed into it. That's what it all comes down to. And yeah, it drives me nuts. Okay.
So with that, should we give people like a takeaway as far as like a piece of actionable advice as far as like what they should do instead, something specific?
Yeah, I mean, look, engage in strength training exercise. Oh, hey, what about this, all right? Let me get into my pose right there, all right? Do one exercise for back, one exercise for chest, one exercise for shoulders, one for biceps, triceps. Notice it doesn't say jump rope, treadmill sprint, battle rope, slams, burpees, jumping jacks, whatever. It's not in the middle there, right? I'm terrible with this camera stuff. Do 6 to 9 sets for each of these muscle groups once every 7 days for 6 to 12 reps, increasing weight, sets, reps, complexity of movement over an extended period of time. Doesn't have to be every workout.
You said 6 to 9 sets.
Yeah, in the beginning, it's 6 to 9 sets. And then afterwards, it might go up as many as 9 to 12 sets. When you start getting to more sets than that, you're talking about more advanced methods like split routines, body part routines, which are so far out the realm of the average person, you don't even need to go that far. I mean, once you start getting past the 9 to 12 sets per week for any one of these areas, now it's more about picking more complex exercises. It's about getting better at making contractions of the muscle. It's about learning to generate more intensity per rep and per set. At that point, the volume, I know there's been a lot of research done. Oh, we're doing 40 sets a week for biceps with superior gains. It's like, come on, give me a break, right? Once you start, for the average person, once you get past 9 to 12 sets per week, done every 7 days, spread it evenly over the 7 days. Once you get past that point, there is such a diminishing return. You're better off focusing on other things than adding more volume. So if you can do that 2 to 3 days a week, if you can get those sets in 2 to 3 days a week, and you can do 3 to 5 days a week of anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 minutes of moderate to high intensity exercise. So again, if the exercise is high intensity, you're going to be down more towards the lower end of that equation. If the intensity is, I'm going to sit there and walk with my friends and gossip the entire time, then you're going to be more towards the 90 minutes, right? But then on exercise, 3 to 5 days a week, lifting weights 2 to 3 days a week, take a current body weight, multiply it times 10, eat that many calories a day, less, I always get this word wrong, sedentary people might need a lower multiplier. They may need an 8, a 9, or a 10 times body weight in calories a day. Active people, our favorite person, Andrew Moss, requires about 12.5 to 13 calories per pound of body weight, but that's because he's walking an hour a day. He's doing 2 spin classes a week, and he's lifting weights 5 days a week. So his multiplier is body weight times 13 in calories a day to lose weight. That's the 3 things you need to do, right? And once you get past that, it's just a matter of time and pressure. But I think people assume that the reason why they're not losing weight is because they're not doing some kind of gym class on crystal methamphetamine workout, right? If we just did silent ball on cocaine, we'd lose weight. And that's not what's going on here. All right. The biggest issue is once you're in a calorie deficit, you lose weight. We know that's not what's screwing people up. What screws people up is you lose enough weight, you start getting hungry. You start getting hungry, there are simply too many damn options out there for you to fill your hunger with, right? And then the other thing is people have to leave their homes eventually. They have to interact with other people. There's always food when you interact with other people. It is not low carb. It is not intermittent fasting. It's not veganism or vegetarianism or the snake diet or the meat people. That is not the issue. The issue is when diets work, they work. You lose weight, you get hungry because your body thinks you're starving it to death. And again, eventually you have to leave the house. And when you leave the house, there is food everywhere. Food is part of every single cell. We should be at the gym recently. All the Halloween candy that is coming through that building will make you want to puke. Now, to the members' intelligence is they're getting it the hell out of their house. So I get that. But just the amount of calories that are in one bag that's brought in the gym is probably more food than the average person would have saw for 3 months for most of human history. Right? It's just too much food out there. And I'm not going to complain about it. I want people to go back to starvation. But that's the issue. So if you can just get stronger through the recommendations I just ranted about, if you can get more active through the moderate non-boot camp puking your brains out recommendations I just gave, and you can figure out a way to get in a sustained calorie deficit to lose at least 10 to 15% of your body mass, you'll be good. Right? That's the practical advice right there.
Okay.
Do you have any practical advice?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to clarify something that you said, because something that used to confuse me when I first started lifting weights was like getting stronger was kind of like a vague thing. So like, for example, let's say you start on the seated cable row and you're doing 3 sets of 10. So let's say you start at 40 pounds and the next week you would want to test your strength. And let's say you add on that little 5-pound thing and do 3 sets of 10 at 45 pounds.
Great. You just got stronger. Congratulations.
Yeah. So gradually, and sometimes you won't necessarily increase by 5 pounds. Like if you can't go up in weight, keeping good form, you might just get an extra rep or 2 in. But that's specifically how you progressively overload an exercise.
Yeah. It could be something as simple as that. It could be adding an extra couple reps. It could be adding extra weight. It could be going from a seated cable row to a single arm dumbbell row, which requires a lot more complexity and stabilization of the core. Yeah. It could be taking a shorter rest break. It could be adding pauses at certain areas of the range of motion to increase the duration of the set. There are numerous ways to do that. I think what beginners have to understand is typically with a beginner, the biggest limiting factor is learning how to do the exercise correctly. Then once they learn to do the exercise correctly, they're going to see some increase in terms of sets, reps, weight, improved technical efficiency, actually feeling a back exercise in the back instead of feeling it in the arms. They might see that every workout or every other workout or every week. But what happens is this pesky thing called genetics kicks in. And so what happens is after about the first 3 to 6 months where everything seems to be getting better all the time, all of a sudden things start to slow down. And you might see those kind of gains. Say you might be stuck at 50 pounds on the seated cable row for a month or 2. Right? But then eventually it goes up. And then once you get past the first year or 2 of training, when you start getting closer and closer to that kind of that 90% genetic window, or as Lyle McDonald said, that asymptote starts to kick in, right? And you're still going up, but you're kind of leveling off. Then you might see those results once every 3 months. Just because you're at 50 pounds on the seated row for, say, a couple weeks does not make that weight cease to be a training stimulus. Right? Your body is still getting an adaptive response from it, even though the weight isn't going up. Because again, as you get closer and closer to your genetic ability, the gains are going to start to level off. They come, but they come at a lot slower rate. And at a certain point, it's not even worth it anymore. Yeah, I think this is the hard part people get. I tell this story all the time. Ed Cohen, greatest powerlifter ever lived. The first time he walked in the gym, he weighed 130 pounds. He saw a 400-pound barbell and he picked it up. All right. Now he went from a body weight of $130 to a decade later, he went to a body weight of about 215. So he gained 85 pounds, partly through puberty, partly through hard work, and partly through, shall we say, effective supplementation. All right. His deadlift went from 400 pounds to 901 pounds. All right. So he had a 501 pound increase in his deadlift. Everybody has the ability to improve. The difference is the average person might go into the gym the first time and they might deadlift 95 pounds. And so their rate of improvement over a 5 to 10 year period might be 95 to 300, right? They made massive progress. They've done what Ed Cohen has done. They've tripled the amount of weight they could initially lift, right? They tripled it. But for them and their station in life and their genetics, they went from 95 to 300. He started out where they ended. You'll see this with muscle mass. You'll look at videos of some of these incredible natural bodybuilders. I use that term loosely, but I'm talking about the guys who legitimately are natural. And at 15, 16 years old, they were bigger than me when I was at my peak at 33, right? They carried more muscle mass at 15 with having barely lifted weights than I carried after 10, 15 years of lifting weights at 33. That's genetics. What genetics are is not an excuse not to improve. They're just kind of determine where people start and where they end up. But everybody can get better, right? So maybe for you, your endpoint is doing incline dumbbell presses with 35-pound dumbbells or 30-pound dumbbells for 10 reps, okay? But the amount of bone density, muscle mass, and strength that gives you will provide you everything you need to live a more functional, full life in terms of what exercise can provide for you. World-class performance is world-class performance. It does not mean that you cannot get better. And what happened with a guy like Ed Cohen, he probably made the same progress loop that you did. So when you were going from 95 to 150 to 200, and all of a sudden you're 6 months in and you've doubled your deadlift weight, you're like, wow, I'll be deadlifting more than Ed Cohen in 10 years. Well, the problem is you got to 200 and all of a sudden it was like 205 and then 210 and then 215. And then you got to 225, like, oh my God, I'm going to be amazing. And then all of a sudden you hurt your back. And then all of a sudden you got better and it got to 230, 240, 250, 290. And then all of a sudden you're killing yourself and you got 300. And then that's it, right? And then at that point, you're just basically killing yourself to maybe add 10 more pounds onto a lift, or you start injecting vitamin S, right? But then again, even with vitamin S, you might get up to 500 pounds on the deadlift. You will never get to the amount that a world-class performer gets to, right? Because again, that's why they're world-class performers, right? I think Alexander Karelin, the amazing Greco-Roman wrestler, I think when he was like 13 years old, he was like 5'8" and weighed 180 pounds, right? The average like kid in America at that age is like 4'11" and weighs like, or 5'1" and weighs like 130. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just genetics at that point. But everyone gets better. Everyone improves. Not everyone stays the same height they were as a little kid. They just don't wind up as big as Karelin did, right? Because he's a world-class athlete. So that's what I think people need to understand about progress. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good recap. So do you want to move on to the more specific topic?
Yeah, please.
So this idea that, and this goes for bench press and lat pull downs and pull-ups, like the wider that people think for chest presses and bench presses, the wider the grip, the more chest, and the same thing for lat pull downs and pull-ups, that the wider the grip, the wider you're going to make your lats.
Okay. All right. So two things about that. The lats, I don't even know if half the people would even care what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. So the lats do two primary motions, right? They do what's called adduction and they do extension. That's what those motions are called. When you do a wider grip lat pull down, you are working the lats through a motion called adduction. The problem is the lats aren't incredibly powerful in that range of motion. And for people whose lats are powerful in adduction, how do I put this in normal sense? The amount of muscle mass they have in the lat in that position is genetically different from people who are not, right? So when you do a wider grip lat pull down, you are biasing certain fibers of the lats that are responsible for adduction because the lats are huge and they've got multiple different angles they work through and multiple different nerve roots, right? So they do this motion, they do that motion. If you do not have the genetic fiber type, and we've heard this all the time, the people watching will know, but low versus high lats, right? If you have very low lats, you probably have a lot of strength through adduction. If you have high lats, you probably have a lot of strength through extension, but not adduction. So you can do all the wide grip work in the world you want to, and the amount of fiber development you're going to get in that area is going to be very little because you simply do not have the muscle bellies to justify building a ton of mass in that area. You might get more development, but you will never get what's considered a wide looking back. Will your back get wider than it was if you didn't ever do any type of adduction based lat work? Probably. But it's nothing to write home about because you simply don't have the structure for it. So that's where kind of that misnomer comes in, is yes, the lats do work for that range of motion, but you can look at some world-class bodybuilders, guys who are on all the drugs and the genetics and the training, and you'll see what's tremendous differences in their lat development. It's not because one guy is some room doing a secret exercise that nobody knows about. It's just simply the way his anatomical structure is built, right? He has an anatomical structure to where those lat fibers tend to be greater around and this is going to get stupid now, where like your iliac crest or your pelvis is. So they have a lot deeper, broader, wider attachment points at that part of their lat. So when you see them flex, they'll flex their back, and their back muscles will look literally like they go all the way down to their ass bone. Where you'll see other guys when they flex, or women, when they flex their lats, you'll see the lats, and the lats will cut like this. All right. That's the way the fibers are arranged. No matter how many times the guys whose lat cuts here does wide grip work, they may look a little more full. This is really grotesque, but they may look a little more full down here, but they'll never go all the way down to his tailbone because he just simply doesn't have the body built for it. Right. So and as far as the wide grip chest presses, look, the wider your arms adduct out, the more the deltoid is going to take over. The more the arms abduct out, the more your deltoid is going to get involved. The more the arms adduct in, the more the triceps are going to get involved. So maybe the misnomer that comes from that is why wide grips produce wider bodies is maybe because you get proportionally more deltoid work, so your shoulders are going to get more developed, God forbid. But again, that's a matter of structure. If you don't have these wide clavicles and these broad shoulders, you could have your elbows up into your ears all day long. You're never going to develop a pair of deltoids that are going to look like they're going to make your shoulders look broad. I mean, that's why steroidal women stand out so much, because all of a sudden they look like they have two softballs on their shoulders. Because for most women, that just isn't a natural level of development due to hormones and structure and all that stuff. So some of that stuff is based in fact, but not to the degree which people give it credit for. And a lot of it's done just to scare the hell into people into following certain training methods. Like there was a trainer years ago who told women not to use wide grips on bars because it would bulk their shoulders up. Oh, as I wish, right? I wish, right? Look at the size of my goddamn head. I've been trying to make my shoulders big my entire life so I don't look like a damn dumb lollipop walking down the street. If it only was a matter of keeping my elbows out, I would have been golden, right? But it's just, again, it's a matter of shoulder structure and stuff like that. I think that's where a lot of that comes from. It's people attempting to make up for what they do not have naturally, genetically in terms of structure. And yes, you can manipulate that to a degree, but it takes a hell of a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, and ultimately it's going to be limited.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I add to that? Well, and then the other thing too is with the wider grip, it really shortens your range of motion. That's true. So when you do get that slightly closer grip, you can get a larger range of motion.
I mean, yeah, you have very little lat range of motion and adduction, but you got a hell of a lot of extension. And what do you do if you don't have those muscle bellies that allow you to get a lot of it? You just, what about me? My shoulders are so beat up from all the years of lifting like a moron, right? I can't do any overhead lat work anymore. I can go here and have range of motion and not have my shoulders sound like a bag of microwave popcorn. But if I start loading this, it doesn't go long before my bicep tendon starts getting really, really angry, right? So almost all my back work either occurs from this angle or that angle. I do absolutely no adduction-based lat work, right? But again, you can build a really good, strong back from doing just a wide variety of different rows. And sometimes that's the only option you have. Some people have, look, you'll see guys doing lat pull downs with a lean back. And as long as they're not, doing this garbage, they're doing a lean back, again, most likely because they're not a person who has really, really developed genetically structured lats to where they can get a lot of lat activation up here. So they have to lean back to actually put the line of pull of the exercise in line with the muscle mass they actually have. If you don't genetically have a lat that goes all the way down your ass bone, where the hell is your line of pull going to come from? Right? It's going to come from your arms and your armpit muscle. Look out. Look at Terry's Major rocking the world, right? You're going to have to slightly lean back to get those lats. You can do this yourself. You want a practical takeaway? Go take a lat pull down bar loaded with about 70 to 80% of what you normally lift. Pull the bar into your chest and just do a lean forward and a lean back. And you will very, very clearly feel your torso either doing the exercise or your arms doing the exercise. Because I have very, very high lats When I do a lat pull down, if I go here, it is all bicep and all forearm and all shoulder. The second I lean back like this, my lats light up like a Christmas tree, a Hanukkah bush, a Diwali's lantern, whatever. I don't know what Muslim people do to light the night up, but whatever your religion does, it lights you right up, right? Again, because it's more a matter of my structure than anything else.
Yeah.
And that's a little secret thing you do. If you want to find out how to do lat pull downs right for your structure, again, load the bar up, pull to your chest, hold in this position, and just lean forward to back on the frame. And you will literally feel your back muscles turn on or your arms turn on. When I meet clients who have very, very good lat insertions down low, they're here and like, wow, I really feel my lats here. This, I feel it more in my mid back, right? Whereas when I do it here, it's all arms. This is the only time I ever feel lats is when I lean back on a pull down. And a lot of people are always trying to figure out why some people have to do that. Well, it's because of the way their body is built.
Yeah. Yeah. And that principle can be applied to a lot of other exercises too. Just the importance of finding the variation of a squat, a deadlift, a chest press, a lunge, like finding variations of those that make sense for your structure.
Right.
And allow you to feel the right muscle rather than trying to do, like some people, most of my clients don't do any overhead pressing. Like they just don't have the shoulder mobility for it. Like that's just one example, but it's like, you don't have to do every exercise like you saw it on Instagram or like the bodybuilder that you follow is doing it. Like you need to find the variation that fits your structure.
Right. Yeah. If you're a power lifter, you have to squat, deadlift, and bench press with a barbell. If you're an Olympic lifter, you have to clean and jerk, you have to snatch with a barbell. For everybody else who's trying to get a little bit stronger and build a little bit of muscle, it does not matter. A great deal of those lifts are not even favorable to the way most people are built. And you'll see coaches who insist on those exercises as being the best way to lift, as being the most efficient way to work out. The things they have to do to squeeze people into those tiny little boxes to get them to fit. And these exercises, they know that the only ones that work are astounding, right? Mostly the trainers who think those are the best exercises are the ones who are best built for those exercises. Go find me a squat guy and I'll show you someone with really, really long shins, someone with really, really short femurs, and someone with a really, really long torso. Why is that? Because I'm a magician? No, because that is the body type that allows people to squat with an incredibly upright posture with incredible ease. Right? Don't go find me in a powerlifting contest, someone setting the record in the squat with really, really long thigh bones and really, really short shins. And I will be stunned if that guy's not bent over while squatting like that. You know what? You need to go start your own country and win every single goddamn Olympic gold medal because you know something that even God doesn't know how to do, right? That once you come out of the womb, somehow you're going to figure a way to modify someone's structure. You can't do it. That's why they have to have all this coaching and modification to get people to fit within. Look, here's the deal. I'm stealing this from Lyle McDonald. I've said it before. As long as the exercise hits the targeted muscle or muscles, as long as you can progress the exercise reasonably and the exercise does not hurt you, that exercise, whatever it is as good as any other exercise for helping you accomplish your goal of getting a little bit stronger and building muscle. Right? That's what it comes down to. You do not have to do any set exercise, and you probably shouldn't do any set exercise. The biggest challenge is trying to figure out, once you learn how to do the exercise correctly, is finding what exercises tend to work best for your own body type. If you want to be a power lifter, then fantastic, figure out how to do those lifts, right? You're going to have to. But for everyone else, it's those three things. Can you stimulate the target muscle? Can you overload it reasonably over time? Right? I mean, push-ups, yeah, push-ups are great, but what are you going to be doing? 1,000 of them a day by, 5 years from now? And then, does it not hurt you? And for a lot of people, those exercises, those exercises in the know are just don't do that for a lot of people. So yeah, absolutely. All right, we got 3 minutes and 25 seconds. I'm going to get yelled at by people saying, "Oh, you talk too much." Devon, what do you have to say in these last 3 minutes? What do you think people need to know?
So, well, I could either talk about something completely different or
Helen's going to yell at me, Devon, so I'm just going to let you know.
Well, I was actually thinking of something completely off the topic of what we were talking about before and just talk about restaurant eating tips since
okay.
I think like, I know we talk about like the salads and stuff, and then a lot of times people will go and order like lots of little appetizers. And we've talked about this before,
Tapas.
how people think ordering a lot of little
Yeah.
somehow going to save them calories.
Yes.
But I would say my big tip for going out to eat is stick to simple single ingredient foods like a meat, a starch, a vegetable, order the oils and dressings on the side, and that's your meal. Make compromises if you want an appetizer, skip dessert. If you want drinks, skip the appetizer. Like making compromises for those extras, but as far as the meal goes, stick to something really simple. It doesn't have to be off of the low calorie menu, but as long as you have that protein, carb, veggie, oils and dressings on the side, I would say that's a pretty straightforward, simple way to navigate restaurant eating while managing calories and getting a decent amount of protein.
Well, my suggestion to people is go talk to old people. Why would you want to go talk to old people? Because when they see how many times people nowadays eat out, order food out, go to restaurants, it blows their mind. I remember, I'm not even that old, but I remember as a kid, we went to Red friggin' Lobster once every 3 months. It was like, oh my God, we're on to Red Lobster, right? The amount of times that people are eating outside the home blows my mind away. And the reason why it's the problem is, I'll give you a specific, I'm going to call out a specific company. I used to always get, when I would get a meal, I get steamed broccoli from Ruby Tuesday. And I'm like, oh, steamed broccoli from Ruby Tuesdays. How can I go wrong? And then I looked at their menu once. The steamed broccoli had 5 grams of fat in it. Steamed, what was it steamed with? Like, like donuts? Like, it's just bizarre. How do you steam with donuts? I have no idea. The point being is, how does steamed broccoli, because food from a restaurant is always going to be infused with more fat, more sugar, and more salt to make it taste better, to justify the cost, so you come back to get more. There's a reason why you go to a restaurant, everything tastes better than the stuff you made at home, because there's more calorie dense than the stuff you made at home. So yes, everything Devon said is 100% correct, because you're already playing against a stacked deck in terms of the nutrient calorie density of the food you're going to eat. So absolutely, that's about all you can do. Because yeah, that's it. We're now in that goddamn less than a minute. I'm cursing way too much. Now we're down to that less than a minute moment where we have no idea.
It could be 3 minutes. It could be like 30 seconds.
Yeah, this just drives me nuts. It's like so stressful for me. So just